Welcome to Automated Strategies for Beginners. In this video, we will be going over the basics of creating an automated strategy using the two-legged pullback indicator deluxe edition. Remember, only the deluxe edition has capabilities to be used for automatic strategies. By the end of this video, we will have a fully functional automatic strategy that trades off the 20 EMA, and also we will consider the strength of the signal bar. Just like building anything, we will have to start with the basics. For the beginner level, we'll be using the strategy builder. In order to get to the strategy builder, go to the command center, go to new, and then go to strategy builder. Here we'll be going over the settings for the strategy builder. We want to have a new strategy because we'll be starting from scratch. Go to the next tab, and then here we'll name this strategy beginner strategy. Click next. For this option, this is imperative that you select on each tick for the calculate. The reason why we want to select each tick is because we want the automatic strategy to make decisions based on every movement of the market. If we do on bar close, it will make the calculation after the bar is closed, but we want to make it on every tick. I'm going to click on more properties so you can go ahead and take a look at this. I really didn't change this much, but I'll leave it here just for your information. Click next. We won't be needing any additional data series because we will be using the data series that will be on our chart. So we can click next here. We won't be having any inputs or variables as well. So you can click next. We'll be spending most of our time in conditions and actions, stops, and targets. Conditions and actions is a section where we'll create the rules in order for the automatic strategy to consider taking a trade. The stops and targets are how we decide to manage the trade itself. After it has entered, you create the stops and targets here. We'll begin with the most basic rule. The most basic rule here will just be to enter into any second entry. Every and any second entry. In order to do that, we'll go ahead and go to this top section and make sure you have this selected, if all, and we'll go ahead and create a group here. Within this group, we'll create a couple rules. We'll call this second entry. And here, we'd like to keep it as if any of the following conditions are met. I'll go ahead and go through the steps and explain in a bigger picture what's going on. Let's create our first rule. Go ahead and click Add, and this window should pop up. In order to access the indicator, you must click on Indicator. Go ahead and scroll down to the two-legged pullback indicator, and make sure when you scroll down to it, you go to the two-legged pullback deluxe. The reason why you need to go to deluxe is because if you go to the two-legged pullback standard edition, you will not have the necessary plots in order to use this indicator for automatic strategies. But if we go to the deluxe edition, you see here that we have a plot that populates here. This is how it looks like on the standard edition, and this is when you have the deluxe edition. You'll have access to the value plots here. the indicator has many plots that you can choose from that are helpful for price action trading. You can take a look at all these, but we will begin with the most simple plot for this rule, which is the leg type. The leg type plot allows the two-legged pullback indicator to tell the automatic strategy what type of leg we are entering into. There are essentially 8 types of legs, 4 types of bull legs, and 4 types of bear legs. The 4 types of bull legs are a first entry bull leg, which is a 1, a second entry bull leg, which is a 2, a first entry trap bull leg, which is a 3, and a second entry trap bull leg, which is a 4. The same thing is in inverse relation with the bear legs. So a first entry bear leg is a -1. A second entry bear leg is a -2. A first entry trap bear leg is a -3. A second entry trap bear leg is a -4. In this strategy, we want to enter into every single second entry. So the leg types that we are interested in are 2, which is the second entry bull leg, 4, which is a second entry trap bull leg, -2, which is a second entry bear leg, and -4, which is a second entry trap bear leg. We will include these one by one. So if we go here and select leg type, make sure this is equals, and then you go to MISC, and here if you go to numeric value, you can select a value. So we want to enter in a leg type that is 2. We'll begin with the second entry bull leg. You press OK. Now this rule is created. But remember, there is also a second entry trap bull leg, and so we will enter another rule here. We'll add another rule. Again, go to indicator, scroll down to the two-legged pullback deluxe, go down to plots, make sure it's on leg type, and again go to MISC and go to numeric value and press in here a 4. So we have created a rule here, and the trigger is if any of these 2 rules happen, then do the following in the next section. We'll begin with just the bull legs. Go ahead and press OK. And so now we have a group of rules here that include the second entry. So if we enter into the second entry, then do the following. Here we go to add, go to order management, and we want to enter into a long position. So make sure that you have long position selected. Here you can decide how many contracts you want to trade. Go ahead and press set, go to numeric value and press 1 for one contract. Here you can put 4, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want here, but I'll stick with 1. Press OK, and I'm going to name this signal name second entry long. Press OK. That's important that you name this because that will come in handy when we go to stops and targets. So make sure you label it. You can label it whatever you want, but I'm labeling second entry long to help make sense of this label. So currently the rule is this. We have a group of rule here, and in this group we have 2 rules. The 2 rules are essentially saying that if the two-legged pullback indicator gives you a 2 or 4, which means that you have entered into a second entry bull leg or a second entry bull leg trap. And make sure you have if any. So if any of these happen, then do the following. The following is then enter long. Once we have this rule set, we can go ahead and go to stops and targets. Go ahead and press add, and we will have a profit target. Go ahead and put that second entry signal here, which is a second entry long. Press OK. Make sure your mode is on ticks. And here we want to take our profit at a 4-tick scalp, which is 1 point. Go ahead and press OK. Then press add again because now we want to add our stop loss. To add our stop loss, go to stop loss. Make sure again you select the label, which is the second entry long. Press OK. Again, do ticks. And here I will put a 4-point stop loss, which is 16 ticks. You press OK. This is a very basic strategy that simply uses point values for the target and the stop entry. You can get more advanced with this, but that will be in another video. Here we'll be sticking with the basics. Once that is done, if you press next, it just tells you some information here. And now what you need to do is actually need to compile this code. So press compile. Once you press compile, you'll have a message that tells you the strategy generated successfully. Press OK. Then you can press finish. Now I have my replay set up. Quickly, if you want to go into replays, you go to connections and then go to playback connection. In order to have replay data, you must go to tools, go to historical data, go to market replay, click on the contract. Sorry, that's to see which information you have, what historical data you have. Go to load, go to get market replay data, select your instrument, which is like the ES, for instance, and then select the date that you want to download and select the date and then press download. The download is grayed out because we're currently connected, but if I disconnect this, then you can see that the download is able to be clicked. Reconnect to the playback connection by clicking playback connection, and here you can select the date range that you want to run your strategy on. I want to run it just on this day, 12/16. And so if you click here, you can go to drop down. I've selected 16, 12/16, and then also on the end, 12/16, that gives me the data for the day of December 16th. And then, in order to add the strategy to this chart, go ahead and click strategies, which is up here. If you hover over it, it should say strategies. Go ahead and find the strategy that we created. Here we can see that we created the beginner strategy, and double click it to add it. And here, make sure to calculate on each tick, and you can enable it here and press OK. If you want to add an indicator, go ahead and click this indicator icon or click Control I. Once the indicator window pops up, scroll down to two-legged pullback, and I'll add the deluxe edition. Double click it and make sure it appears bottom left here so you know it's added to the chart. Press OK. And now the indicator is added. So we can see how the automated strategy will enter into second entries. I like to just put the speed at max, and that's one of the benefits of doing backtesting because you can control the speed. And then go ahead and press play. You can see here in this bar we did not enter in because it is not a second entry long. We still have not seen a second entry long, so we have not entered a trade. Here we see that the automated strategy entered this second entry long. It's kind of hard to see because the trade information's here, but you can see a dark green 1. And so when the dark green 1 triggered, it entered into a scalp for 1 point, which we can see right here. And so this is the most basic building block of the strategy, entering into a trade, a second entry long trade. But that is not very useful. We want to enter into second entry longs that have better context. In this strategy, we will be using the 20 EMA to build our context off of. Let's go ahead and add more rules to our strategy. In order to edit the strategy, go to your command center, go to New, go to Strategy Builder. Here, on the very first screen of the prompt, it says Welcome. Make sure you're on the Welcome screen, the Welcome view, and then on the drop-down, you should be able to find your strategy. Click the Beginner Strategy, click Next, and we see here that this is on each tick that we are accessing our strategy that we made, and we're able to edit it. So now we want to add more rules. Currently, our strategy enters into every single second entry. It's not very useful, so we will add some more rules to add some context. Like I said before, we'll be using the 20 EMA as our context. We'll go ahead and press Group again, and here we can write name, and we'll call this context. We'll call this context here, and here make sure you have if. Here we want this to be if all, because the context, we want all the criteria to be met for the context. You press add. Again, you go down to the two-legged pullback. Make sure you go to the deluxe version, otherwise you won't have access to these plots. And here we want to add another value plot. We want to add this to our context. If the signal bar low is below the 20 EMA, but the high of the signal bar is above the 20 EMA. So conceptually, what that is that you have a signal bar that goes into the 20 EMA and then closes above it. In order to do that, we will first begin with the signal bar low. We want to say the signal bar low is below, or here, less. We'll do less than or equal to. Then we want to say that is less than or equal to the 20 EMA. To access the 20 EMA, go to Indicator. Scroll down to the EMA indicator. Select it. And here in the periods, make sure you put in 20. Then you press OK. This just added a rule to have the signal bar low crossing below the 20 EMA. But we don't want it just to cross below the 20 EMA. We want the high to be above the 20 EMA. So we'll go ahead and add another rule here. Again, go to Indicator. Scroll down to the two-legged pullback deluxe. Scroll down and go to signal bar high plot. Here you want this to be greater than or equal to, and then you go to Indicator and find the 20 EMA. Go to 20, go to EMA, and make sure you press 20 here. Press OK. and then you can press OK. So what we just have added is another rule saying don't enter every single second entry, but only enter a second entry if the rules of the context match. And remember, the rules of the context is this, that when the low of the signal bar breaks below the 20 EMA and the high is above the 20 EMA, then enter into the trade. We will keep the order just as an enter long one, and the stops and targets will stay the same as well. Make sure you press compile, and a message will come up saying it has generated successfully. Press OK. You can press finish, and let's rewind the replay by scrolling the play bar all the way to the left. A quick tip, you can just press this F here, and this will scale automatically as the chart develops. Let's also add the 20 EMA to our chart. You can press Ctrl I, scroll down to the EMA, double click it to make sure it's in here, and mine's already set to 20 because I set it as a default, but make sure you have the period as 20. Press OK. Now we have added the 20 EMA to our chart. Our new strategy will enter every long second entry that has a signal bar low that goes beneath the 20 EMA, but the signal bar high is above the 20 EMA. So let's go ahead and watch this develop. We see here that we entered into this trade here because we have a two-legged pullback, A, B, C, one, first pullback, first entry, second pullback, and this signal bar here is below the 20 EMA. The signal bar low is below the 20 EMA, but the signal bar high is above the 20 EMA. If you look really closely, it's just above it. We'll go ahead and let this continue to develop. Here we see this second entry not entered in. This was not entered in because the signal bar, which is this bar right before the trigger bar or the entry bar, the low is below the 20 EMA, yes, but the high is not above the 20 EMA. So here we have a signal bar that does not match the rule, so that is why we did not enter into this trade. Here we see that we entered into this trade because the signal bar, which is right here, is below the 20 EMA, the low, but the high is above the 20 EMA, and we are in a two-legged pullback. A, B, C, first entry, first pullback, second entry, or second pullback, second entry. So here we have entered a second entry. Let's allow this to develop. We can see here that we actually stopped out. So though that it bounced off the 20 EMA, we entered long in the second entry, and even though it bounced off 20 EMA, we still got stopped out, as you can see here with the stop loss. We were not able to make a point, and instead a trap occurred on the other side. If we take a look at this setup a little more closely, the context is not bad, but the signal bar is terrible. So let's add another rule to consider the strength of the signal bar. To get back to the strategy, go back to the command center, go to New, Strategy Builder, select the beginner strategy, go ahead and go to conditions and actions. Instead of adding a group, we'll just go ahead and just press add and add the rule directly here. Go to indicator, scroll down to the two-legged pullback deluxe. Here, go to the value plot. If you go down to the bottom, you can see a value plot called signal bar level. This signal bar level is a plot that tells you where the close is in the range of the signal bar. For instance, if the signal bar closed in the middle of its own range, then the value will be 0.5. If the signal bar closed 3/4 of its own range, then the value would be 0.75. If it closed on the bottom quarter of its own range, then it will be 0.25. Let's consider a strong signal bar to go long to be any signal bar that closes on the upper half of its own range. So we'll select the value plot as signal bar level. We'll go to greater than or equal to. Actually, we'll go to greater than because we want anything above the 50% range. We don't want it to be right in the middle. And then you go to MISC, go down to numeric value, and here you want it to be 0.5. If you want a really strong signal bar, then you can do something like 0.65, which is basically the upper 2/3, or 0.66, 0.67, anywhere in that area. That'd be the upper 2/3, but for this example, we'll consider anything that is above the halfway point as a good signal bar. You can press OK. And so now we just added another rule that considers the signal bar. All our conditions are these. We need it to be a second entry long. We also need the signal bar to go below the 20 EMA or touch it, but close above it. We also want a signal bar that closes in the upper half of its own range. If all these criteria are met, then enter long. Go ahead and press compile. We won't change the stops and targets. We'll keep it at 1-point scalp and a 4-point stop loss. Press OK. And now go back to our chart. Let's rewind it back. Press F here to get the auto scaling in. Just a quick note. In this control center, you have a strategies tab. If you want to see if your strategy is running, go to this tab and see if it's clicked enabled. I can unclick it and the strategy will be turned off. And to enable it again, you can just click it again. So now the strategy is enabled. I like to press F12 just in case, and it will give you this prompt. And F12 essentially refreshes all indicators and strategies on your chart. And I do that because I just compiled a new strategy, so I want to make sure that whatever is on the chart has all the most recent version of the indicators and strategies that I have on the chart. Let's watch this automatic strategy develop. Press play here. And so the rules are, we enter into second entries long that touch the 20 EMA but close above it and has a good signal bar. Here, notice that we entered into this trade. Because the signal bar strength is above 50%, almost at the 100% level, it went below the 20 EMA and closed above it, and so we entered long here. We'll continue to let this develop, and we want it to develop to the point where we got to the last trade, the last time we ran it. Here, this was a trade that we entered when we ran the automatic strategy last time. Notice here, this time we did not enter into this trade. Even though the signal bar goes beneath the 20 EMA, closes above the 20 EMA, but the strength of the signal bar, according to our definition, is not strong enough. We need it to be above the 50% level. Here, it is below the 50% level, and so we skipped this trade. And by doing so, we saved ourselves from getting stopped out right here. That is the basics of creating an automatic strategy using the strategy builder on NinjaTrader. If you would like more information on the indicator, go ahead and check out the official website at www.twoleggedpullback.com.